After the storm, time to settle. The 20th of March. Just a few minutes of settling in the moment, receiving the experience of seated, receiving the experience of settling, giving attention, this breath, knowing the heart of this moment, this time, this place, this here, this now. This experience, knowing what we add, knowing the meaning we give to this, and receiving this moment. And breath, and this body, this now, this here, this place. This allowing, this accepting, this gathering of energy. Like this. Allowing this awake, knowing this knowing. This aliveness. the whole of the experience, the whole of the knowing. This time, this place, this here, this now. This breath, this moment, this well-wishing, this interest, this exploration, and gathering, collecting, recollecting, reconnecting. These suggestions of knowing, this knowing, this receiving, this giving. In this moment, here, this place, now. A breath, One breath, this breath, this moment. This knowing, this stillness, this sensitivity, this life, this aliveness, this knowing of the knowing, this receiving of life in this gift of attention, this giving of life to life, giving life to life. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namassami. There's an assumption that you've joined this session to listen to some reflection, um, some ideas to notice how those ideas are received, what meaning you give to them, how this works for you, and how it works for you is your business. It's what's offered is offered, and if it makes any sense, fine. If it doesn't make any sense, fine. Leave it behind as just sound at the ear, or just turn off, or just speed through it, or whatever happens is wherever you are in time and space. When you listen or see this, this is life, receiving of impressions, and in the receiving of impressions, you're giving meaning, and that is what life is, really. Being alive is that. Not receiving any impressions and not giving any meaning is what's being dead. And we can't, we have all in the life that we experience right now, there's all sorts of habits and conditioning. And this conditioning gives us the sense of being here now, and what meaning we give to this sense of being here now. A sense of the story that we bring to this moment. This is the conditioning that it's a sense of me and mine and here and this limitation, this sense of this body. And what do we do with this, and how do we do with it, and how do we it's the question that we, at some point, if we're listening to this, there's something that's happening, that sort of questioning is there. And we're lucky or we're fortunate in some way that somehow that the sense of interest in the Lord Buddha's teaching, and so our maybe reflections on that, and that sense of what that suggests of knowing. Or Buddha means that sense of knowing, that sense of awakening, that sense of wisdom. And it's like this. It's just like that. That's the nature. And I asked about harmony and what that really means. And there is the phrase the word in Buddhism, Samma, which is, for the Eightfold Path, everything's preceded by this word, Samma. Samma Ditti, Samma Sankappa, Samma Vaja, Samma Kammanto, Samma Ajiva, Samma Vayamo, Samma Sati, Samma Samadhi. And this Samma, one of the ways of translating it or relating to it that maybe will help for that sense of harmony is it's one of the ways it's been, I've heard it's explained as in tune with. In tune with. And the usual way of translating it is right or perfect. And the right is interesting because there's the right and a wrong way of doing things. And no, it's not that there's anything, not as a judgment, but there's just some things you can do right and some things you do wrong. And the rightness of Samma is in tune with, is in harmony with, and in harmony with the Dhamma, in harmony with the truth or the way things are. And the description of that is, that's what's apparent here and now, that which is revealed by wisdom, that which is outside of time, that which is inviting or encouraging investigation, that which leads to a sense of ease and that sense of, oh, it's like this. When something is realized, and anybody can realize the way things are. The rightness of this is a rightness for humans, and the human practice of what it means to have a harmonious human life, one that doesn't make more suffering for oneself or others, one that actually relieves suffering for oneself and others, one that actually realizes where all the stresses end and gives opportunities for others to find that way of knowing the end of suffering, end of stress, the end of problems. That's what harmony is really about. And the natural expression of those is that which is that which moves. That which is a natural expression of freedom from ignorance, and that's and ignorance is something that we are doing. It's something that we are ignoring. So it's an active thing that we don't even know that we're doing. And the way out of ignorance is just knowing. That's and part of it is the way out of is knowing that we don't know. So that's a humbling thing. So if we recognize, well, I don't know how to lead a life, then so that it leads to less suffering for oneself and others, then it's good to have some sort of guidelines that keep the whole thing safe and allow there to be a freedom from fear and a freedom from remorse. And that's a really good way of harmonizing, in human society, how to have a human society in harmony. And that's where the start of one of the ways that they start the Eightfold Path is that sense of having a way of practicing basic fearlessness for oneself and others, and a sense of not having to regret and not having to hide. And that's where the sila comes in as a basic standard. The sila is the guidelines and the practice of fearlessness and giving fearlessness to others, a sense of generosity of fearlessness to others. So a sense of training not to harm, not to kill, not to use them, communicate in ways that actually are lies or gossiping or backbiting or hateful or encouraging disharmony. So speaking in accordance with truth as much as one can, supporting that, particularly not deliberately trying to deceive, not deliberately trying to backbite or gossip. There's a basic training in harmony and fearlessness. You know, the basic 5 precepts are ways of offering oneself a sense of nothing that one needs to regret, and to others, other beings, a sense of nothing that needs to be feared. And that is an incredibly valuable gift to practice. I don't wish to deceive or to harm. I don't wish to gossip or backbite or use communications in ways that increase pain for oneself or others. So that's a way of practicing in society, living in harmony, because that's true of outside of time and space, in any time and space. That sense of that willingness to practice that. And so it's a way of also accepting the limitation. You're not following impulses that are just going to spill out. You're actually giving yourself a container, limiting one's actions. And it's a recognition of a limitation that one can actually give oneself. And, when the impulse is to break it, then one notices the build-up of energy that happens, and that one can transform that energy into ways that are actually beneficial. When you're sitting meditation, when you're staying still meditating, then you are keeping the 5 precepts. So, verbally and physically, you're not acting in ways that are actually harming oneself or others. In that sense, you're completely trustworthy. So to recognize that, to acknowledge that, and to know that, and not be ignorant of it, to actually know that when I'm sitting meditation, I'm actually keeping the 5 precepts. Because they are about verbally acting and physically acting. That's the start. That gives a good basis. And of course, for the rest of one's life, they give one, a whole area of being trustworthy. There's a beauty in that. Beautiful behavior, externally behavior. And then, then one can really take what one receives in that sense of fearlessness and trustworthiness, and then look at how the heart is working. As one's given a sense of containment of that, so that then the impulses that are based on a sense of inadequacy, a sense of needing something, a sense of not being able to cope and having to push things away, a sense of having to get rid of something or get something or to become something or go somewhere, those impulses can then be noticed and not acted upon out of a sense of inadequacy. There can be the sense of aspiration, just a sense of accepting the limitation and saying, well, I'll work with what is. I'm not saying there should be no aspiration, but not coming from a sense of inadequacy. I need to get something in order to make me happy, or I need to get rid of something in order to make me happy, or I need to go somewhere in order to make me happy, or I need to become something in order to make me happy. Or the other side is putting it on other people and saying, well, they should be different because I don't cope with them as they are. And that's the opposite of metta, is that sense of I can't cope with things as they are. And having metta for oneself is that sense of this is like this. And then one can work at working out, well, what can I do so that there'll be less suffering now and in the future? That's where one can work with compassion. What structures can I put into place so that I don't pick up new behaviors of body or speech or mind that actually give myself more suffering now or in the future? No. How can I not do things, thinking, saying, speaking, acting, in ways that actually increase the sense of inadequacy? Okay, if I keep acting from a sense of inadequacy, then keep feeding that. And of course, I want something from somebody else, or want something from the universe, or want something from elsewhere. And this is the opposite of what one thinks. It's not recognizing how things are. There is this limitation. But one can work with this limitation. This is what being alive is about, working with the limitation of this moment. Now to free the heart of the hindrances and the things that block the sense of understanding, the sense of inadequacy, the sense of restlessness, the sense of neediness, the sense of not being able to cope. And that comes back to this sustaining attention in the moment. This posture is like this breath is like this body is like this response to this moment is like this habit of the mind is like this hindrance is like this. These are the factors of enlightenment. This is investigation. It's like this. This comes back to samasankappa, which is dwelling in the thought that actually is in accordance with truth. So the intention not to harm, not to indulge, not to dwell in hatred. This is samasankappa. These are the thoughts that take us back to the Dhamma. And sustaining this is samasamadhi. Samasamadhi is absence of the hindrances, and continuing with that sense of collectedness in this moment. You've got samavayama, which is the effort not to increase unwholesomeness that is already there, not to keep feeding it, to not develop new unwholesomenesses, to feed that which is wholesome and encourage that which is wholesome, and to develop new wholesome qualities. This is what one can do. This is the practice that one can do. With attention in this moment, samasati, with the collectedness in this moment, so the hindrances transformed through that knowing. The hindrances are transformed by the bojjhangas, by the factors of enlightenment. That's what one can work with. Because this is what will live harmony, life in harmony with the way things are. It's the practice of the Eightfold Path. And the natural expression of that is the sense of not dwelling in aversion, the sense of working out ways so that there'll be less suffering now and in the future, a sense of joy and appreciation in this, within this limitation. This is what there is. This is what I can do. There is enough. I really don't need any more. I really don't need to get rid of anything. I can work with what is. No, oh, I need more. I need that. If you keep feeding that habit, and what one feeds is a sense of inadequacy. Can't stand this. Can't stand this about myself. Can't stand this about others. That feeds the sense of inadequacy. And feeding that habit is never helpful. The sense of, wow, this is what we have. This is what we can do. This is what I can do. This is this moment. I don't really know whatever's going on, but this moment, it's like this. This is the knowing in this moment. This is what I'm giving to this moment. This is how I'm receiving this moment. This is what this sense of time and space is. What knows this? What is not caught in this time and space? What is not thinking? And then allowing that space, where does it all end? And what happens when that suggestion is made? I don't know what, and that not fixing to this moment, knowing this moment, but not fixing to it. Because the knowing is not of this moment. This knowing of the moment, this knowing is, I think the confidence that comes through sila is the confidence that one's not going to harm oneself or others. One's offering fearlessness. One can approach this moment fearlessly and doesn't have to worry about the consequences. There's a sense of safety in sila, safety for oneself and safety for others. And that appreciation of that beauty, that appreciation that this human can practice the 5 precepts. That's beautiful. Can practice the 5 precepts, can acknowledge when they're broken, can work with it. There's a beauty in that. Whenever one sees beings behaving beautifully, there's a sense of, oh, that's nice. That's lovely. And that appreciation, there's a sense of joy. I think giving and that recognition that that's one of the most generous things that one can do for oneself and others is practice the 5 precepts. So there's a great gift in that. Because when you practice the 5 precepts, you're not asking for anything from anybody. You're not demanding that others keep the 5 precepts. It's something that you practice for yourself. You can use the 5 precepts as a way of beating yourself up or beating others off and beating other people up because of it. But that's wrong use. The basic practice of the 5 precepts is training oneself. And that fearlessness that one offers oneself and offers others. It's great. And that one can do it is incredible because most people in most societies, for a lot of the time, don't break the 5 precepts, but they're not conscious about doing it. They don't give awareness to it, and they don't use it as a way of training themselves. And they don't feel it as something that they offer for themselves and others. And there's a shame about that. It's an overlooked opportunity. Appreciate that the 5 precepts are kept most of the time by most people. And appreciate that one can trust many people a lot of the time. When one can't, then there is a sense of disappointment. And when one really can't, and the whole society's gone to pot, it's what's called war and anarchy. Because most of society is about trying to encourage people to keep the 5 precepts. If it works well. No, and then if it works better, then it's also encouraging people to reflect and not operate out of a sense of inadequacy, a sense of I need to get something, or I need to persuade people, or I need to get rid of something, or I need to become something, or I need to go somewhere. Because all of those impulses lead to more stress, oneself and others. Is it coming from a sense of, this is what I can work with, this is what I can give, this is how I can ease suffering now and in the future for myself and others. There's a beauty in that. There's a harmony in terms of harmony with the truth, with the Dhamma. And that's an honoring of what one's received as a human being. And one has received for one's teachers and a sense of gratitude coming from that. Well, giving to that and that sense of appreciation is mudita. And recognizing the limitation of this moment, this is like this, is upekkha. Upekkha, that sensitivity in this moment that allows the response of mudita when it's possible, of karuna when it's not possible just for mudita, and with metta, which is a sense of not dwelling in aversion to this moment, not thinking this should be different. I should be different, or they should be different, or the situation should be different, because I can't cope with it as it is. And that I can't cope with it as it is. If one believes that, one feeds the sense of I'm inadequate and this is inadequate, I don't have enough. And for most of us, most of the time, that's not the case. You know, if one has the 4 requisites, that's physically one's okay. If one has enough contact with the Dhamma that one can practice, that's already beautiful. And nowadays, there's plenty. We're very, very fortunate beings. We're very, very fortunate beings. There's a beauty in that. There's a beauty in that. All of you and all of the beings that ever listen to the Dhamma wish beings well. We really, really wish beings well. You all wish beings well because you'd really prefer that everybody was enlightened, because it would make your life easier. This is the way it is. So I offer that for your consideration today. And if there are questions, then see if you wanted to put something in the chat. But for now, Evang. And if there's nothing in the chat, that's okay too. The liking and disliking is just part of life. But not dwelling in aversion or dwelling in a sense of inadequacy, that's extra. Don't feel any benefit from keeping the 5 precepts, but other beings feel the benefit. And at least you've done nothing to regret. So I feel I have been keeping the 5 precepts for several years, but recently I don't feel or see or feel any benefit or any improvements when the power cuts happen in the chitta, motivation and happiness are both not there. Then I don't know what to do. Yeah, it's difficult. You have to find ways of dwelling in a sense of I'm okay. I can work with what is. There is enough. I can work with this. I don't need anything. I don't need to get rid of anything. I don't need to become anything. I don't need to go anywhere. There's nothing to get rid of, nowhere to go, nothing to get, nothing that needs to be pushed away, nothing that needs to be gone, nothing to become. Because if one feeds that sense, what one feeds is a sense of inadequacy. And that's not really kind to yourself or to others. Don't feed the sense of inadequacy. Yeah. Most people don't have any, any tips of how to relate with somebody who's not seeing any value in the practice. Many people don't see value in the practice. Many people don't see value in the practice and of the Eightfold Path. And that's the way that it is. No, it's for various reasons. No, the difficulty is thinking, well, they should be different from the way they are. That gives you the sense of your happiness is dependent upon what they do. And if you make somebody else responsible for your happiness, then you're not being kind to yourself. And if you make yourself responsible for somebody else's happiness, you're also not being kind to yourself. In the end, all you can do is work with your own, this one, because, happiness independent of conditions is what's really worth it. So not to dwell in aversion to those beings that don't see any value in the practice, but what you can do with it, with almost anybody, not everybody maybe, but almost anybody, you can at least try to notice something that's beautiful and good about them, something that you do appreciate about them, that you can try to do. Somebody, particularly people who are close to you and people who you have had some contact with, you can appreciate, you can know you can notice what's good about them, what they say or what they do. And also recognize for many people, they live in a lot of pain or a lot of inadequacy. And in some sense, it's not really their fault the way they are. It's how they are. And that's the best they can do. So the best you can do is not dwell in aversion to them, because you dwelling in aversion, it depletes you. You wanting somebody to be different from the way they are, it depletes you. It puts you down. You have to recognize that this is what you can do. And if they are different from how you want them to be, that's how they are. And you do the best you are. Okay. Somebody's on a strict diet, they're going. Okay. Any tips on how to relate with fearlessness? Not seeing any value in the practice. All sorts of thoughts and impulses arise in the content, from pride that I know better and shame to wanting to hide, or even to be accepted, which I try to observe with curiosity, and I usually end up in inaction. Sometimes that's all you can do is provide a good example and not try to, shift or change them. Now, even the Lord Buddha couldn't convince his cousin to behave well. And the son of his chief disciple one of his first disciples killed the poor guy, his father. So it's not new that there is craziness in the universe. It's not new. And you do the best you can with what you've got. It's really... Whose fault is it when we say that it's their fault or our fault? There's no fault, because we are in the deep suffering. Yeah. who takes responsibility? Yeah, it's not really their fault. Do you blame kids for throwing a tantrum? When people are not, not don't have, they will accept the consequences of their intentional actions, and people will make mistakes, and that can lead to damaging themselves and damaging others. That's certainly the case, and there are consequences for behaving in the wrong way. People do have accidents or misuse things, and there are consequences for themselves and for others. But that's how they are. They don't know better. They don't know how to behave. There will be consequences, but it's the way that a kid is. There are consequences when they behave in ways that are not mature. Now, the only truly mature beings are enlightened ones. The rest of us are slightly mad and immature. And given that, then we do the best we can, and we recognize the limitation of what we can do. No, but that's all. That's all we can do. Yeah, they are either in deep suffering or just confused. Confused, they don't know how to behave. And if we're fortunate enough to meet people who we do feel that we wish to emulate, then to remember that some people are fortunate and some people are not fortunate, and some people don't even notice. Nowadays, there's so much information out there. So many good people doing their very best in whatever way they can. So many people wishing to support. Yeah. It's not that the fault is a sense of blaming something. It's not a sense of blame in somebody being not knowing what to do. Sometimes people are almost willfully ignorant, and then there are, when does something actually become evil is an interesting philosophical point. When deliberately trying to cause harm to others and pain to others, there's a sadness there, that level of of deliberate pain. But yeah, that's how it is. It's not that, if somebody's trying to stop you from doing something, or somebody's trying to hurt you, to do something to defend yourself is fine. And if that means calling for people to help you, restrain people, or in some way issue restraining orders, or somehow prosecuting people if they try to cheat you, that's great. Yeah, you talked about it's not really their fault. Or what is the fault when we can say that it's their fault or our fault? There's no fault. Okay, is it related to karma? Well, karma is just a description of cause or one of the causes and effect. Karma is one of the ways that cause and effect is described, and that's intentional action and its result. And there are results from intentional actions, but that's just one of the aspects of cause and effect. The cause and effect is to do with time and place and all of that sort of stuff. It's just something that is all tied up with personality. What do you do when your heart energy is low and you can't feel pity to practice or any joy in practice, what do? You endure. You endure. It's like the dark night of the soul, and the sense of, what is it? What is it to endure? What is it? Where is there joy? Where is there? And what is it that knows this? Where is the refuge in this knowing? There is the possibility to practice. Where is this? How is this? Where is the knowing? How is the knowing? No. To work with the bojangas, bojango satisankato dhammanang vichayotada viryang piti pasadi bojangas. Look at the 7 bojangas and see, to work with those as factors of enlightenment, that sense of torpor or lack of energy or lack of purpose. Where is this? How do I feel this? What knows this? What is this? Where is the strength? And do recollect the goodness of your life. The fact that you do have goodness, that there is the possibility, there is life, and that you do wish beings be enlightened. You do wish yourself to be enlightened. You do wish yourself free from the sense of downness, sense of lack of energy. You do wish that of yourself. You do wish yourself well. And beings wish you well. Beings share the merits of their life with you. All the beings that have ever practiced have always said, may all beings be well and happy. You've said that. And beings do wish you well. That doesn't change. There is well-wishing in this universe. There is a sense of well-wishing to life. That's just the way that things are. Because otherwise that whole possibility would not be there. We do wish you well. Beings wish you well. It's just the nature of life. One has received an incredible amount in order to be here now. That's beautiful. And you wish beings well, and you wish yourself well. Be in touch with that, and just stay with the knowing. And this is part of life. Heart energy low is like this. Heart energy high is like this. I like the high, I don't like the low. This is how it is. Wishing you well.